I'm Representative Julie Von Haefen from here in Wake County, and just really excited. Thank you all for coming to support this very important bill. For the fourth session in a row, I hate to say that, but it's true. Fourth session in a row, I'm the lead sponsor of the bill to ratify the Equal Rights Amendment to the United States Constitution. This year, it's House Bill 500. My colleagues have filed the same bill in the Senate, which is Senate Bill 438, and thank you to my co-sponsors for doing that. Although I'm really proud to be here today with my colleagues and advocates to speak out about why it's still important for North Carolina to ratify the ERA, I'm disappointed that North Carolina is one of the last states in the country, there are only 12 of us left, to recognize that women deserve equal rights in our Constitution. It seems that we are repeating history since North Carolina was one of the last states to ratify the 19th Amendment, not until 1971, 51 years after women got the right to vote. Women have been fighting for the ratification of equal rights for far too long. The ERA was passed by Congress in 1972, but looking back even further, when the Constitution was first written, women were purposefully excluded from equal protection. Even now, right now, even during Women's History Month, women are being excluded and erased from history by the Trump administration. Across the federal government, agencies are scrubbing photographs and written references about women from their websites in response to President Trump's executive orders. Examples are removal of photographs from websites that depict women, and according to reporting by NPR, the State Department instructed its staff not to mention a list of terms and phrases, including women and girls, when trying to attract international students to study in the U.S. Arlington Cemetery, the Army, and the Navy have removed educational programs and web pages about the history of women in the armed services. And the Air Force took down a 2019 profile of women who piloted bomber missions. The Pentagon marked tens of thousands of photographs for removal, including those of female war heroes. It seems that our country is moving backwards when it comes to women's rights. We celebrated, well, I don't want to say celebrated, but yesterday was Equal Pay Day. And did you notice that Equal Pay Day seems to be getting later and later in the year? That is because the gender wage gap actually widened last year from 84 to 83 cents. So now women have to work even further into the year to get paid what a man was paid last year alone. To put the wage gap in perspective, each year North Carolina loses 3% of its GDP to sex-based pay equality, equaling $15.6 billion. If women were paid just as much as men in North Carolina, they would receive a 19% raise on average. We know that women in the work that we historically have done has been undervalued by our society for generations. We can still see modern examples of this right now in the fact that our low teacher salaries and in professions like childcare, where 99% of people are women and 45% are women of color, only make an average of $12 an hour for one of the most important jobs in our society, and that's growing our earliest learners. Why does this matter to the Equal Rights Amendment? And that is because the ERA would set a norm for equal pay and provide a basis for litigation and legislation to extend the same pay entitlements to men and women. No mechanism for achieving pay equality actually exists right now under law. And without a foundation of economic equality, women will never be equal. But to end on a positive note, every time our nation moves backwards, the change is met with opposition. We owe it to the women of our state to continue this fight so we can enjoy the same rights as men. We cannot let another generation of women go through life without constitutional protections, and we will continue to oppose the efforts of the Trump administration to erase us or diminish our accomplishments in this country. Ratifying the ERA here in North Carolina is the first step to showing women in this state that their government supports them and sees them as equals in the eyes of the law. So I call on every member of this General Assembly to step up and co-sponsor this bill, publicly and loudly share your support that you support equal rights for women. And if you do not see your senator or representative's name as a co-sponsor on this bill, I want you to ask them why. Yeah. Why don't they support equal rights for women, and why won't they publicly state that? I stand with my colleagues, thank you so much, my friends, my own daughter, and women across North Carolina who demand a seat at the table. We demand fair treatment, we demand fair pay, and we demand to be treated as equals in the eyes of the law. And now I want to turn it over to my co-sponsor in the Senate, Senator Natalie Murdock.
Thank you, Representative von Haefen, and it's been an honor. She's filed it for 4 sessions. This is my 3rd session that I've been a part of the ERA as Senator Terry Van Don was leaving the Senate. I was honored to join and sponsor along with Senator Mayfield and now Senator Woodson Bradley. So we're thrilled to continue to hold the mantle. And as Representative von Haefen mentioned, yesterday was Women's Equal Pay Day. And for Black women, Indigenous women, AANHPI women, our days are even later in the year. So we actually do events in the September-October timeframe because it takes that much more time to narrow that gap for us to make what white men already make at the top of the year. And at the congressional level, it was celebrated in a bipartisan fashion, and I wish we could do that here in North Carolina. A joint resolution was filed in Congress on yesterday in honor of Women's Equal Pay Day and Women's Equality Day in the Senate and the House. A bipartisan resolution to ensure that people know that the ERA, we have met the qualifications where all the states have passed it. We simply need folks to acknowledge that, and that's what we're working on here in North Carolina. And it's been 5 years since Virginia became the 38th state to ratify the Equal Rights Amendment. Remember it like it was yesterday. The ratification of the ERA, which affirms that equality of rights under the law shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of sex, is long overdue. For more than 50 years, women marchers, organizers, and elected officials fought to meet the constitutional requirements outlined in Article 5 to ratify the 28th Amendment. And despite having met those requirements, we are still here until this very day, fighting 5 years later. We stand here advocating for the ERA amidst the attacks on reproductive freedom that are popping up here in North Carolina and across the country. So now more than ever, we need to ensure that your sex and gender does not hold you back from having full protection under the law. And amidst the widespread dismantling of policies that have helped women claim their seats at the tables where decisions are made each and every day, we deserve to be a part of all of those tables, as Shirley Chisholm famously said. Critics of the ERA argue that it is no longer needed. We hear that every session that we file it, but we are here again and will continue to do so until it's included in our state constitution. But here and now, we are being reminded every day of how wrong that sentiment is. We are seeing highly qualified women as they're ousted from their positions in favor for less qualified individuals being denied the protections that they so rightfully deserve. The ERA passage is critical for women's liberation, and we must continue to fight for its passage, and we will continue to do that with this coalition that continues to join us each year. Next up, you will hear from Audrey Muck, co-president of the ERA Alliance.
Thank you, Senator. So I'm Audrey Muck, co-president of the Equal Rights Amendment North Carolina Alliance, and I'd really like to express our deep appreciation to our ERA bill sponsors, our partner organizations, media, and advocates who are here today. Thank you all so much. The ERA, as Representative von Haefen said, it simply says equality of rights under the law shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of sex. And that's a broadly popular concept, right? In fact, the Meredith College poll has shown that the vast majority of North Carolinians support the Equal Rights Amendment, more than 70%. So that means men and women, Democrats, Republicans, independents, unaffiliated folks all support this. So people often think that the Equal Rights Amendment is just for women, but as you heard, the word woman is not actually in the amendment. By establishing true equality under the law, all individuals will benefit from protections against gender-based discrimination. In 2020, Virginia ratified the amendment and became the 38th and final necessary state to amend the Constitution as the 28th Amendment. You may recall that North Carolina ratified the 19th Amendment in 1971, 51 years after it was fully ratified. And we're here today to urge the General Assembly to ratify the ERA as the 39th state, to do so as a statement of our support for equality of rights under the law, and also so that we're not so late to the party this time. And so the Equal Rights Amendment movement was built on the shoulders of the suffragists. So I would like to introduce Jennifer Rubin, president of the North Carolina League of Women Voters.
Thank you, Audrey, and thank you to all of our elected officials who are here today, especially those of you who have sponsored these bills. We certainly are behind you because you're behind us, so we really, really appreciate that. The League of Women Voters of North Carolina is a proud member of the ERA Coalition and a stalwart supporter of the ERA. And let's face it, there has never been a time more important in our history to be standing up for women's rights. As an organization that was born of the suffragist movement, we are proud that a suffragist introduced the ERA, the concept of the ERA, in 1923. And just in the 98-year blink of an eye, President Biden affirmed that the ERA is now the law of the land in 2025. The League of Women Voters has a long history of action supporting the Equal Rights Amendment. During the past two Congresses, we garnered 87,000 letters in support of the ERA. And after the 2024 election, LWV launched a campaign urging President Biden to certify and publish the fully ratified Equal Rights Amendment. Our members sent 52,000 letters to President Biden and participated in a coalition of 143 nonprofit organizations supporting action on the ERA. As I said earlier, the ERA has never been more important. We know that it is a vital tool in our fight against sex and gender discrimination, including unequal pay, workplace harassment, pregnancy discrimination, domestic violence, limited access to health care, discrimination against LGBTQIA plus individuals, and more. The ERA now constitutionally protects equality of rights under the law, regardless of sex. Yet ratification is not being fully acknowledged. We join with many other organizations to ask that we correct the Constitution. We will continue the fight for equal rights, and it is important that North Carolina become the 39th state to ratify the ERA. Let's put North Carolina in the books. Let's vote to ratify. Thank you very much. I'd now like to introduce Marla Barthen, who is part of the ERA Coalition, to tell you a little bit more about what the Alliance is doing.
Thank you so much. I am Marla Barthen, and I'm the co-president of the ERA-NC Alliance. The Alliance is made up of several state organizations who advocate for equality. Our reach extends from the mountains to the coast, and as we speak today, just know that we are not one, we are many, and we are speaking together for equality rights for all y'all. And if you don't get our new pin, we'll make sure you got the new pin, everybody. Okay, so let me tell you about what some of our most impactful work that we're doing inside the Alliance, and that is ensuring that the 28th Amendment is implemented in North Carolina. So we were the second state in the entire nation to complete a full audit of our state statutes. Winston & Strawn law firm found that 45,000 pages out of the 47,000 pages of our statutes have gendered language. These resulted in 22,000 laws that need to be remedied. Some of those are technical changes, and then others contain archaic terms that no longer fit modern society. And then the rest are very substantive changes that are going to require more bills to be filed. So, the 28th Amendment went into effect 2 years after Virginia ratified in 2020. The Alliance is leading the charge to make sure that our laws conform. Thank you. And I am going to turn this over to Megan Shook. She's one of the attorneys to outline the legal implications, as we move forward. And she is the president of the North Carolina Association of Women Attorneys, one of our lead organizations. Thank you, Megan.
Hello, everyone. My name is Megan Shook, and I'm the current president of the North Carolina Association of Women Attorneys, NCAWA. I'm making a few brief remarks today in that capacity. First, I want to thank the sponsors of this bill. I'm a lifelong North Carolinian. I was born and raised here, and so I really do want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for that. And thank you to the ERA-NC Alliance for inviting us to say a few words today. NCAWA has been proud to be a partner with the ERA-NC Alliance for several years now. First, for a bit of history, the NCAWA was founded in 1978 with a mission to promote the participation of women in the legal profession and advance the rights and welfare of women under the law. Its very first resolution was to recommend that the North Carolina General Assembly ratify the ERA. That obviously was before I was born. That's in 1978, our very first resolution, and unfortunately here we are still in 2025, where our sponsors have had to reintroduce this type of bill, as they said, 4 times. More than 4 times, but they've personally had to reintroduce it 4 times. So last year, I just want to point out, I think it's already been said today, the American Bar Association adopted a resolution supporting the immediate implementation of the ERA. Their position is that the time requirement and a state's ability to rescind ratification does not comport with Article 5 of the Constitution. Our organization, the NCAWA, agrees with the ABA's interpretation, and we would encourage North Carolina Bar Associations and the North Carolina legal community to assess the full ratification of the ERA and support its implementation through this bill. As lawyers, we know we have a professional and ethical obligation to support equality under the law. So it's our responsibility to support the ERA. I'd like to ask if Rep. Von Haefen, if you have any other comments, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
I'll wrap up by just saying, to thank you so much to all my colleagues, to everyone who I know is going to sign on as a co-sponsor today, if you haven't already. Last session, we were able to get, I know every Democrat in the House. Okay. Did you get every Democrat?
With our deadlines.
Okay.
5 p.m. today.
Oh, yeah. Well, for the House, it's 5 p.m. tomorrow that they have to. So, but last year we were able to get every House Democrat to sign on to this bill, which is a big accomplishment because we don't all agree on everything, but we all agree that equal rights are important and that we all support them. And so that's my goal in the next 48 hours is to get everyone on board. So I really appreciate the hard work, the long-standing, I wish it wasn't, but the long-standing work of the League of Women Voters, the ERA-NC Alliance, and the Association of Women Attorneys who's joined the fight now. And just thank you so much. We're going to be recognizing Alliance members at our session, our House session at 1 o'clock, and recognizing Women's History Month. So I hope you can all join us. So thank you so much for coming.